Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Anne-Marie Horowitz. I'm with the Arctic Energy Office, Acting Director of Communications. We're so happy to have you on today's webinar. We've invited the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations to join us today. We've just let everyone know that this webinar is being recorded and posted on the Department of Energy's website, and advise folks if they don't wish their name or image to be visible to please log off, call into the Zoom, and to turn off your video for the duration of the webinar. All participants are currently in listen-only mode, and we ask you keep your camera and mic off until the Q&A portion of the call begins. We're so thrilled that you're all able to join us, and thank you so much. I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Givy, to introduce our office, and then we'll hear from our featured guest, which is the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. Again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. I'm Givy Kolanowski. I'm Senior Advisor to the Office of Indian Energy on loan to the Arctic Energy Office. Our Arctic Energy Office focuses on three main points: our energy, science, and security. Among the many duties we have liaison relationships with other departmental offices, such as the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. And the goal of today is to make everyone aware of some great opportunities that are coming forth from the OCED team that could positively impact the state of Alaska. Between the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act, there are several opportunities for federal funds to come to Alaska for good projects and the needs that we have up here. And hopefully this webinar will educate you about one option that is forthcoming in the very near term that can benefit rural and remote communities. And with that, I will kick it over to the OCED team.
Apologies on those slides, and we'll get up to the OCED slides, but these will be available following the webinar. Hi, everyone. So it's a pleasure to join you all on this call today. We appreciate your interest in OCED and specifically the Rural and Remote Program, and we really appreciate the continued partnership with the Arctic Energy Office. My name is Morgan Brummond, and I'm a contractor supporting OCED, and specifically the engagement efforts of the Rural and Remote Program that we're going to be talking about today. Many of you actually probably joined us on the last webinar that AEO hosted and invited us to discuss opportunities within this program. And we're very excited to share more about a new grant funding opportunity that was announced last week that's available to communities like those across Alaska. Next slide, please. Before we move into sharing information specific to the Energy Improvements in Rural and Remote Areas program, I want to begin with a little bit of background on OCED, which is the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. Next slide, please. OCED was born from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and is a very new office within the Department of Energy. We have over $25 billion in funding and house programs that work to deploy a variety of new technologies from hydrogen to advanced nuclear, as well as place-based energy solutions through programs like the Rural and Remote Program. OCED's mission is to deliver clean energy demonstration projects at scale in partnership with the private sector to accelerate deployment, market adoption, and an equitable transition to a decarbonized energy system. Go ahead to the next slide, please. OCED serves as the primary DOE office to deliver full-scale clean energy demonstration projects and project management oversight. OCED is filling a critical innovation gap on the pathway to achieving America's energy and climate goals. And the office aims to unlock and scale a $1 trillion follow-on investment from the private sector and other sources of capital following the deployment of these demonstration projects. Something unique to OCED is we actually have a dedicated engagement office, which is what I'm a part of, that supports outreach to local communities, tribes, government entities, and other entities as well. And we can go to the next slide. This slide briefly touches on our efforts to prioritize communities and specifically community benefits plans, which are a key requirement associated with all OCED funded projects. DOE wants to ensure that the workforce and the local communities are a key part of the solution to building a clean energy future, and we will invest in projects that support job creation, advance environmental justice, and facilitate an inclusive energy transition in all communities across the country of all sizes. More information on community benefits plans can be found on our website and in each funding opportunity, but we can also provide more detail later on in this webinar. I'm pleased to now pass over to Michael Kuka, who is a key member of the Energy Improvements in Rural and Remote Areas team, and he's going to be able to provide a more in-depth overview of the new grant funding opportunity from the program. Please join me in welcoming Michael Kuka, and we can advance to the next slide.
Hello, thank you, Morgan. And as Morgan said, my name is Mike Kuka. I'm an engineer with the Energy Improvement in Rural Remote Areas program of OCED. And I'm happy to be here. First, thank you to the Arctic Energy Office for inviting us to have a discussion online today. And as Morgan said, the office, the OCED office has this program called the Energy Improvement in Rural Remote Areas. And so a very brief overview of what the office is. Within the IIJA, or commonly referred to as the bill funding, bipartisan infrastructure law, they stood up the OCED office, and specifically on this rural and remote program, the Congress allocated $1 billion for the period of fiscal years 2002 through 2022 through 2026, excuse me. The purpose of that funding is to provide financial assistance in rural or remote areas, and the high levels impacts are for the resilience, safety, reliability, and availability of energy and environmental protection from adverse impacts of energy generation. Overall, the rural, which we'll talk about a little bit and welcome any questions on it as we go through, Congress defined as, for this particular provision, for this program, they defined rural as areas of 10,000 or less. And so the benefits of any project through this program must benefit communities of 10,000 or less. And we'll be happy to talk about that more in the Q&A if you have any questions on that. And then our broad overview of what we may allocate funding towards is on the right of that slide. We're talking about cost effectiveness of energy generation, transmission and distribution systems, siting or upgrading transmission and distribution lines, reducing greenhouse gases, and then modernizing the electrical facilities, and of course, microgrids and increasing energy efficiency. Those are our key tenets of the program. And if we could go forward, I think I just lost the slides here. Okay, great. If we could go forward one. Okay, there's three main items that we've launched just in the last few months with OCED in the Energy Improvement in Rural Remote program. The first two are on this slide, and I'm going to briefly mention them. We were fortunate enough to be invited by Arctic Energy Office about a month ago, maybe a little bit more than a month. And we had the opportunity to speak to both of these. Those are both recorded videos, and we'll mention a little bit about the dates here in a minute. But on March 1st, we announced the $300 million funding opportunity announcement, and that is for rural and remote communities across the nation to construct energy projects. That concept paper for that program was due April 14th. They are currently being evaluated. And you did have to submit a concept paper to proceed to the full application. We won't be referring to much detail on that. It is with the FOA manager and things are being reviewed. If there's specific questions on that, we'll refer you in the Q&A here, we'll refer you to the OCED website, and there's a couple of comments on that OCED website that we might get to, but I won't be speaking specifically to those applicants or who is being encouraged or discouraged during this time. That'll be strictly in a formal process through the Department of Energy. Second, we have a $15 million prize competition. This was exciting to us. It was the first time launching the prize competition, but the general idea is that we want to award communities who are attempting to either build a project management structure or find alternative financing mechanisms or networks to move forward constructing clean energy projects. These are early stage development, and we do have, this is open currently right now. I would ask Morgan or Emery if you could put that HeroX link in the website. Although applications are closing next week on May 24th, however, it's still an open and available competition for phase 1. If you have any questions on that, I'll be directing you to a few recorded webinars where we discuss the full rules and engagement. Hopefully, if you're considering submitting an application, you're well into that process and have identified either your partner or your finance objectives. If we could go to the next slide, please. Just a quick little blurb. I kind of already mentioned this already about the Energizing Rural Communities Prize. It is $15 million in phase 1, which the application closes next week. The communities are eligible based on merit to receive a $100,000 prize and enter into a phase 2, which lasts 1 year, where they will implement their proposals to either build partnerships or financing mechanisms to get into a competitive stance for clean energy development. Our goal is, we've heard many people from across the nation say that they aren't in a maybe a competitive phase to get federal funding for these projects. And so our goal is to make these communities with their ideas, with their concepts and execution more competitive for federal funding. We'll keep going. And now the major topic of today is to discuss the grant that was just announced last week. So when we post this online, these links will be available for you to click from. But if we could have somebody in the group just post the OCED link. This is FOA 3045. And this was announced last week. Big picture is that it's a $50 million opportunity. They are for energy projects, construction of energy projects, $500,000 to $5 million. And the Department of Energy had a strong emphasis that they wanted to reduce barriers. All the way up to the Secretary of Energy has listened to communities about barriers and applications. And we've attempted to make it a streamlined process. We've also heard significant challenges from our most rural and remote communities about coming up with cost share for a number of reasons, and this grant will require no cost share. And we could go to the next slide. Big overarching ideas, and when in just a moment we'll end the slides and open up to the floor for all kinds of questions and answers. But again, it's a fixed price grant. We will be awarding prizes from $500,000 to $5 million. There is no cost share requirement. There is a pre-application process, and that closing date is July 13th. So we have a good bit of time to work on that as your teams may regard. But also one really interesting thing is the pre-application. It's 20 questions. Many of them are just click yes or no, let us know details about the applicant. And then there is some fill in the blank. Overall, it's a 10-page max length. We intended to design it so it would not be extremely burdensome on many of your communities where you're very busy and engaged on other activities. So we're hoping that this is an opportunity to put in a pre-application without a significant amount of effort by the community. And with those pre-applications that we get, we will be essentially down selecting and telling you whether or not you're competitive to move forward with the full application. The full application itself is a 17-question template. And as you see, 18 pages max. Again, that is supposed to be intended to be a little bit less burdensome, but as many of you are aware, the full application and going into the process of negotiations under a funding opportunity announcement does require certain aspects, specifically registration in SAM and organization through the federal websites that need to be registered on. This is commercially available technology. We are looking for TRL 8 or 9. We do want things that are proven. We are not looking to take advanced technological risk on this grant. We have some opportunities in other parts of OCED and other parts of DOE to do R&D and bring R&D to the marketplace, and we encourage that. However, in this grant, we are looking for tried and true technologies that communities can construct in partnership with their local members to ensure that there's success. And we're looking for success. We're looking to have some great product. Because of that, we're not going to take a technology risk on these programs. Although we do recognize that in the most rural parts of the states, and especially in Alaska, that taking commercially available technologies and putting them together are sometimes considered innovative, and that is not a disqualifier in any means in that regard. Again, fixed price milestone payments. We can go to the next slide. Just a couple more comments here. I'm not going to read each bullet, but it's a little bit of an idea of like, what does this mean, the pre-application? We try to make it a short template. We are allowing you, obviously, there is no requirement to use a template. If you reference the FOA, and I will give you that section in a bit, it does tell you the requirements of the pre-application, and you are more than welcome to type that out on your own. Save it as a PDF and submit it in OCED Exchange. Alternatively, you could utilize the template that we have online, and we can chat about that in a bit. Simply 8 scoring questions, and those scores will be rated for merit and then used to compete against your colleagues. The scoring will focus on the need for the community, the impact of the project to the community, the rationale, why is this particular project being used, what benefits will it find, and then sustainability, meaning the longevity, that the benefits that are assumed in the application will be sustained over a period of years, which is a tenet of this grant. We'll move forward, please. Next slide. Okay, there's quite a bit on here, but in general, we did hear a lot of requests for assistance when the FOAs were open. Typically, in past programs that I've worked with, we don't open up technical assistance while the FOA is open. Although what we heard from the communities as we stood up this program is that some assistance would benefit communities. And what we have here is up to 8 hours of support for each applicant. It's at no cost. Some of the examples that are available, it will be just the applicant communicating with subject matter experts on the technologies or systems that they're considering developing, although they will not be designing the project for you. There's a description of some just preliminary development and timelines. We talk about the qualifications, experience, and capabilities of a general project management team. And then what does it mean for the community benefits plan, which is a new introduction to many of you for the FOA. It is important to note that our technical assistance is open for you to assist you. It is not there to write your applications, and we will not be developing sections of your application for you. And then later this summer, EPA and OCED has entered into a joint activity, which is called the Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Centers. We call it TICTAC for short. And there will be, through that link, once they announce the opening of these centers, there will be additional assistance for communities, for DOE and for all federal funding to help prepare, understand, and sort through the federal activities or federal assistance that's available to rural communities, and to assist in preparing some of those preparing for some of those programs. If you have any questions on any of those technical assistance items, we'll cover that shortly. We're about to wrap up the slides and move into a a Q&A session. Go ahead, please. Next slide. And this will be available to you when the PDF is posted. But just a couple general links. You can sign up for the OCED website and newsletter if you're interested in staying in touch with the office. And of course, always visit OCED Exchange for all opportunities. We are one of many offices, one of many programs in the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration. And we welcome you to look at all the open opportunities across our different provisions. With that, I think the next slide is just our informational email. I will highlight a couple things when we start talking about the FOAs, but if you have specific questions for the FOA, we do have specific emails, whether it be for FOA 2970 or 3045, 3045 being the grant that we just discussed. All right. So with that, we're going to go to open forum. We have quite a bit of time on the schedule. We have about an hour left on the schedule, and we are welcome and available for your questions throughout this hour. And if we satisfactorily answer the community's questions here online, then we'll end at whatever time that is. So I will reference the chat, but if anybody is interested in asking a question on video, please go ahead and just turn on your camera and we'll go one by one. Alternately, if you do not want to be on video, go ahead and just type it in the chat, or if you don't have video, we can use audio also. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump into the chat here and see what, let me see if I can make this a separate window. So starting from the top, we provided a couple links there.
Michael, would you like me to read off the ones that came in?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you, Emily.
Great. So someone asked, are these grant monies only available for project construction, or can they be used for detailed feasibility and design studies?
It's for construction. If the design or final design is part of your project proposal, then that is acceptable. But these grants will be awarded to construct projects. If you need assistance with feasibility studies, we can chat otherwise. There's a lot of opportunities at DOE that can assist with that, to include those TIC-TACs that are standing up and some other technical assistance programs that we offer. But specifically to this grant, we're constructing projects. With that being said, constructing projects may be also associated with upgrading transmission and distribution infrastructure, powerhouses, a number of SCADA possibilities, improving resilience, improving line losses, things like that are considered energy projects, not just simply generation. Go ahead.
Great. And if anyone would like to ask their own question on camera, you're more than welcome to. So please just turn your camera on and we'll go to you next, or use the reactions feature to raise your hand. I'll just go ahead and ask the next one that came in. Someone wanted to know, is they dropped a URL for a partner. It's rcap.org, partner in these projects.
They are not active partners with this grant. The rural cap, I think that is what it is. I have to click on that link to go check. But not specifically connected to this funding announcement of $50 million for this grant.
Great, thank you for addressing that. Next, what that came in, someone asked, noted that the downloadable pre-application template from the OCED Exchange does not open in Adobe Acrobat. It's giving an error for them, and they're noting it's only openable within a web browser window. Have you run into that before, Michael, or do you want to address the tech issue?
Yeah, I've seen, we've got a couple emails in our inbox for that. I've asked IT to look at it. I don't know how interested the crowd is on this, but when you save a PDF, it can be straight.pdf, or you can save what's called PDF-A. And these are saved as PDF-A because they're supposed to be fully accessible to all different types of computer softwares, but evidently people are still having trouble with that. We're doing our best with that. I'm not sure why it won't open, because we have many people that I've checked with on the outside of the firewall that is opening just fine. So I'm unclear if it's settings on individual computers or what, but I would like to reassure you that it's simply a template. And let me go ahead. I said I was going to cite this later, so let me go ahead and just cite it right now. The FOA, which is posted on OCED Exchange, it's FOA 3045, has section 4.4. It's called proposal content. And 4.4.1 has all the requirements for the pre-application, detailed, and it's the exact same verbatim as what's on the template. So in 4.4.1 of the FOA, if you're having any technical difficulties, you're more than welcome to just grab that table from the FOA, and if you fill it out as it's stated, you will fill out exactly what the template is. I promise you that I have many tickets into the IT trying to figure out about the PDF, and we are trying to resolve that for the few of you that are finding some challenges there. So thank you.
Great. Wendy, would you like to ask a question? I see you came on camera, so please go ahead if you do.
I'm just trying to follow along and appreciate all of you and all your patience. And this is totally new to our village, but we desperately need to learn more. We have run out of fuel right now. So we don't have energy when we don't have fuel. So we need to learn everything you're talking about, because we need to do an alternative project that we've been kind of researching. So thank you for doing this today.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for joining us. If you are, we do encourage you to read the FOA. It's a big bonus. If you have the time, you can, I think it's, let me see the page limit. We tried to make it very modest. It's total at the end is 30 pages, a 30-page FOA. And then we do have the appendix. So if you have the time to check out those 30 pages, we do encourage you to read through it. And then be certain that once you understand what we're looking for, the money's available, what kind of projects, etc., then you do have the opportunity to engage with our NREL colleagues on 8 hours of technical assistance as it regards to the pre-application. Again, we do welcome questions to the inbox if you have any questions about the opportunity. First thing I'm going to post here in the chat is the link to the pre-application. I'd kind of like to see if people can open this or not. I'm not sure. Yeah, it comes up as a link. That's the pre-application, so maybe we'll just kind of do a live poll if it's working for the group or not. And then second, it may be above in the chat already, but I'm going to go ahead and just repost the email where you can ask questions about this FOA when you read it, and have any questions, then it will be an opportunity to you're more than happy to email us and chat about that. And that is on the OCED Exchange page. You don't have to copy all these right now. Everything we're giving you there is right on the OCED Exchange page. Hi, Sherry.
Go ahead, Sherry. Thank you.
Hi. My question is about what 10,000, the population means, what that 10,000 means. Does that mean that's the number of people who are served by this proposed facility, or the size of the community where it's supposed to be located, or something else?
Yeah, great question. So I am going to put another link in here. And what that means is the benefit of the energy project. The benefits must go to a community of 10,000 or less. So you can kind of think of a few different ways, like, okay, so maybe it didn't have to be located right there. But if you didn't locate the energy project in a community of 10,000 or less, then you will certainly be required as an applicant to show why that construction in a different area is benefiting a rural area. So the very direct answer is it must benefit a community of 10,000 or less. There's no requirement that the construction itself has to be co-located, but there must be clear and illustrative reasons that that project is benefiting a rural community. Does that answer your question, Sherry? Great.
That was perfect. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And also, I put in a link there. It says the data.census.gov. That's a great link. We had to verify population somehow, and we're using the census to verify population. If there's any scenario that you don't feel that's representative, we welcome you to put in an email to the help email, and we could take a look at it, and we'll answer that question on the FAQ, which is posted on OCED Exchange under this FOA. However, initially, going through applicants from other funding opportunities, it has been pretty solid for pulling up. You can pull up the city, you can pull up towns, you can pull up counties, and you can pull up census designated places. All right, how about some other questions? Anybody in the group want to go ahead?
We had a question from RJ. RJ, would you like to voice your question or for me to do it for you?
If I can find my unmute button. Hi, everyone, and hi, Michael. I was most interested in, I admit I have not read the whole FOA in detail as of yet. So just one strategic question, if I may. Is there a size limit relative to power generation that the FOA is seeking relative to all the different communities that are supposed to be considered? Does that question make sense to you?
Let me just answer the first part of the question, and you can tell me if I've provided a good answer. We are not regulating generating capacity, so it doesn't need to be X megawatts or X kilowatts.
Right.
As I said, it could be SCADA, it could be upgrading power plants for resiliency, it could be transmission and distribution for power quality or a number of reasons. The limit is on the dollar of the project. In this case, it's federal cost share because there is no applicant cost share. So the limit of the project would be that the federal government would fund would be $5 million. And so that in and of itself maybe indirectly limits a certain generation capacity,
Yes.
but we don't identify it in megawatts. We identify our maximum federal cost share at 5 million.
Very good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. Our next question was from Carl. Carl, would you like to voice your question or I can do it? Give them a second to come off mute. Okay, I'm going to go ahead then. Carl asked, will there be a meeting board where different entries, communities, and technical or eco apps meet and find potential partnerships?
We are working on developing a teaming list, and that, let me reference the FOA here. It's Appendix A9. We will be, we have the opportunity for applicants and those interested in this FOA to submit their names at our FOA email, which we posted just a moment ago. And we'll compile a teaming partner list. It allows individual and organizations who may wish to participate on an application to express their interest to other applicants and to explore potential partnerships. This will be simply a template that's uploaded on OCED as applicants express their interest in sharing their information. But it's entirely outside of our purview. We won't be managing the partnerships, or it's not required for applicants. It's an opportunity that we've heard from communities that they like the idea of a teaming partner list. So if you are interested in that, please see the FOA and submit your interest, your required items to be published. And as we start to receive those, we don't have any at this time, they'll be submitted to ERA grant at hq.doe.gov. And this is the submissions instructions are in Appendix A9 of the FOA. It's page 39. And the details of what we're looking for are provided in the text there. And if you submit that, give us your consent, then we will add you to the partnering list, and then all communities that are interested in this FOA will see that, and we'll have the opportunity to contact you, and likewise, you will have the opportunity to contact others. So Carl, I hope that answers your question, but let us know if it doesn't. Feel free to come off mute or add additional question in chat. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for addressing it. We'll turn over to Faith next. She'll ask her own question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Faith.
So I think you already mentioned it, but we had turned in a concept paper. Our community has turned in a concept paper already for the larger grant, and we haven't really heard anything. I'm only asking because the due date for the full application is next month, and the region where our community is at has had a flooding event right now. So it might be really difficult for us to communicate. Our company is in Anchorage, and Seattle. So that's why I was asking. So
absolutely.
Okay. So you said you've already you're still reviewing concept papers.
Yeah. And, I am not the FOA manager on that. So I'm only going to say what's on OCED Exchange. Just for the group, Faith is asking about FOA 2970. It's a $300 million FOA for projects from $5 million to $100 million. And that's 2970. I just placed the link there. And I'm going to read you what was just updated on that Exchange website, which is public and available for all to see. At the just above the documents, it says that DOE is currently reviewing. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. I'm not going to go verbatim here. It's a few sentences. DOE is currently reviewing the concept papers, expects to send out encourage discharge notes in early June. Given the delays in sending out notices, DOE will be revising application deadlines. Please continue to check OCED Exchange for changes to the deadlines. That's what the FOA manager has posted on Exchange, and I don't really have anything to add to that. But if you have any follow-on questions, I'm happy to receive those. Did that answer your question, Faith?
That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much. So the next question is from Tiffany, asking what is the timeline for your decision on the grant and the prize?
Yeah, so the prize, as I said, it closes next week. The first phase, the applications for the first phase, that is a submission package and a video that competitors will submit. We anticipate, I'm smiling because we have about 900 followers on HeroX, and so we're not quite sure how many applications we're going to get. But we anticipate receiving, well, we know we'll close on May 24th next week. And then we anticipate making announcements in July. We don't have an exact date yet, because once we get the number of applications, we'll figure out, how many reviewers we have and the process for going through that. There's potentially up to 90 awards given on that first phase, 60 in the partner phase, 30 in the 60 in the partner track and 30 in the finance track at $100,000 each, which is $9 million. So we hope that'll happen in July. It's highly likely, I should say. The grant, which is FOA 3045, the pre-applications are due on July 13th. Typically, we hope to turn that around in a month. And it's a plus minus based on the number of applications we receive. Did that answer the question there?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely, Tiffany. We had somebody come on camera there. Was there a question? Is that just an accidental?
Oh, I would like to apologize. I took them off camera because I thought it wasn't on purpose. So please do come on if it was. And you can be up next. My apologies. I have a question from Mariko in the chat asking on their behalf, if an entity submitted a concept paper to the earlier FOA last month, does that preclude them from submitting a pre-app for this FOA?
No, absolutely not. It's distinctly different. The FOA that the initial FOA that was referred to in the concept paper is FOA 2970. It is a minimum $5 million federal cost share, meaning that projects would be 5 million or greater. And this grant is $500,000 to $5 million federal cost share. So they're distinctly different projects. If an entity, this is a little bit of side note, not what you asked, but if an entity submitted accidentally to FOA 2970 and had a project less than $5 million, then they're encouraged to go ahead and submit to the one that's under 5 million, which is this grant. But an entity will not be, they are eligible. There's no eligibility requirement that only allows you to apply for one.
Thank you. Next question is from Jeffrey. Would you like to come off mute and ask it yourself? I'll ask it for them. He asked, what is the difference between FOA 3045 and the one from April 14th for the concept paper submissions for FOA 2970?
Sure, there's a few differences, but let's just keep it in dollar figures. The one we're talking about today, 3045, is 500,000 to 5 million. And the one that was due 2970, concept papers were due on April 14th, is 5 million to 100 million. So different cost categories. There's a few other differences, but I'm happy to kind of dive into that if you'd like more detail, but those are the significant high level differences in the two.
Great. And I have a few more in the queue from the chat, but I'd like to give an opportunity for folks to ask on camera themselves. If you want to chime in, please raise your hand or come on camera.
Yeah, I saw a couple hands raised and then go back down. We welcome you to jump in. This time is exclusively for you. So Carlos, did you have a question?
Yeah, hello. Thank you for all the great information. We're an engineering team, and we would like to get involved helping people access basically technology and solutions. And we find that a big barrier is the fact that, you know, adding a renewable energy solution to a particular production doesn't really pay off in a reasonable amount of time. And then, you know, there are big efficiency gains, but requiring rethinking the way people produce things, which then it means a lot of work. And then what is the incentive if the extra production cannot be located in the market effectively, which is especially true for small communities, small farm communities. So, I mean, we want to create sort of a management solution to help that. And we don't know if that is attractive in the grant.
The matchmaking, is that what you're saying?
It's a bit of a matchmaking. I mean, we want to, but it's a bit of matchmaking between skills, so technical capacity, producers, and market channels that are willing to accept these productions and have had a contract which allow for payback to the solution. So let me just put it in perspective. You set up you add a bunch of solar panels to a greenhouse and it never pays back. You add a sustainable greenhouse with and add the renewable energy as part of the project investment, and it pays back in like 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. The perspective is, why would I do it? Do I have a way to locate the next $1 million in production? Which is a big if. So if you can address that risk, you can accelerate adoption. This is our hypothesis.
Okay. Great ideas. Let me kind of give you a couple things just that I'm thinking of. One is there is some excellent matchmaking, and welcome you to check out HeroX and the prize that we have posted. That HeroX is in the chat. There's opportunities for engineering firms or other businesses to put forth their names and their contacts and let communities across the nation know that they are available for some of the considerations that you just noted. I would also offer you to look at the Appendix A9, the teaming partner list, and see if your group would like to be part of that or not. And if so, you can feel free to make a submission there, and then you'll be posted on a teaming partner list that other entities that want to be posted and want to be public can reach out and communicate independently. And third is if you work directly with communities, you can work with those communities, and if they are interested in what you're discussing, they can submit proposals based on those concepts. So those are kind of 3 general ways. The HeroX is probably the closest one to exactly what you're talking about, with a teaming partner list a close second.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else have some questions?
I have a few in the queue, Michael, if other folks don't want to chime in. I'll just give you a chance to think about it and ask a few that came in that they wanted me to ask on their behalf. I have some chat going with the participants. So Hans is asking, they have a few, but we'll start with one. Will technical assistance address eligibility questions, for example, about whether a project benefits the less than 10,000 people, excuse me?
Yeah, they would maybe help you consider it. That they're one of the items of the technical assistance is to help you consider the community benefits. It's really important for applicants to clearly state why it's a benefit for a rural community. The single largest legislative direction that we have is that our money will only be spent when it is benefiting communities of 10,000 or less. So if the applicant is at a loss as to what that means, or they're not sure if they're really benefiting at 10,000 or less, or if they don't have a strong argument, then that's something that they should consider when they're doing the application, because we expect many people that are submitting will have very strong arguments as to why it benefits the community. Let me give you an idea. There's certainly no absolute here. Let me just give you a couple of examples, but it doesn't cover all examples. If you are significantly changing the electrical generation to reduce emissions, greenhouse gases, pollutions, that may be a benefit. If you're significantly impacting power quality and resilience, reducing outages, that's a significant benefit. If your actions are reducing rates, that's a significant benefit. creating jobs. These are some things that they're not new to FOAs. They're not new to FOA applications. They're just phrased in a little bit different way this time about called the community benefit plans. But those are some things like just to consider. Obviously, they're not all the things. There's a lot of things I didn't mention. But there's a lot of reasons that projects in very rural areas can benefit their communities. And that has to be clear on that. It's going to have to be clear to be competitive in this grant. This will be certainly a very competitive grant. And we hope it is very successful and we're able to offer this opportunity on a continuing basis. If I didn't fully explain that benefit to the community, then please ask some more questions and we'd be happy to engage. I saw one hand just came up while I was speaking. So if you're still interested in asking a question, please do. And otherwise, Mary, go ahead. Yep.
Michael, this is Forrest Button, and thank you for having this webinar. We appreciate it. I was going to ask you if you anticipate seeing this program continue, but you just answered that question by saying if it's successful, you hope that there'll be other FOAs out there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be a little more specific, just we're all based on congressional allocation. And that second or third slide in the ERA group, I think it was the first slide in the ERA group, we have $1 billion allocated for the period of 2022 to 2026. So that gives you an idea. With the first funding opportunity, the prize, and this funding opportunity, that adds up to $365 million. We do have monies being spent on things like technical assistance and otherwise, but nominally, if you look at that, 365 million is out on the street. 1 billion is authorized by Congress to be used by 2026. So we would expect to fulfill that legislative direction unless it was for some reason rescinded. But at this time, it's our expectation to fulfill that direction.
Thank you. And Stuart had asked the same question in the chat, if this was a reoccurring prize or program. So if communities aren't ready this year, will there be opportunities for next year? So
yeah. And I don't want to give the impression that we are announcing further release dates. That would be the director of OCED that makes that determination and actually releases it. I'm just simply, I'm ceding that answer in the legislative authority that's been given to us. Again, it's 1 billion over 5 fiscal years. And so I would expect that that is executed as written. However, just to be clear, the director of OCED has not announced follow-on announcements or dates. So I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. I'll ask another one that someone wanted me to ask for them, and then hoping folks come on camera and ask themselves as well. If proposed project cost is above 5 million, can applicants still apply to this FOA by proposing outside sources of funding?
Yes. Our limit is a federal cost share of $5 million. So it is not exclusive to project size. As it's written, maybe I can hopefully pull this up fairly quickly, give you exact wording, but it's the federal dollars. Let me just see if I can give you an exact. This FOA provides 50 million in federal funding and is designated to support small community-driven clean energy projects requiring 500,000 to 5 million in federal funding. So that does not limit the project size in and of itself. It does limit the amount of federal contributions to the project. Anybody else?
Rami, do you want to come on, or I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, and ask your question? You had a couple of comments in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose it's kind of in consideration to the end game, once the 15 million is awarded and everything's kind of cleaned up. With all the different projects that are happening, all the different grant opportunities, all the community needs, the on the ground reality for anyone that's going to try to manage any of the different things. Like if they go for this project, like I asked it so many of these different agency things, so bear with me. It's I'm concerned for a lot of the nonprofits, a lot of the communities themselves, the economies, the service agencies, and if we're talking about in Alaska, it's not just Alaska, but somehow in all of these, we need to figure out how to dovetail and better stack and braid so that with the different agencies and funding opportunities, that we're not just burning everybody out to try to go for every grant opportunity there is to try to get the money, to get the good ideas. And then in a year or two, where has that money gone except just to kind of use as band-aids to burn everybody out? So somewhere in this, especially kind of the once in a generation lifetime opportunity that we all face, if everybody's going for these grants, it's natural to kind of be overwhelmed because it's like taking sips off a fire hose. So in the considerations, if not in this or in the projects that come in the future ideas and the funding, to always try to remember, like, we're in this for each other, the people themselves, and somehow we need to do this work, respecting this energy work that we're talking about, and to take care of each other as we're building these infrastructures. Thank you for enduring that. I just needed to remind us all that it's going to be okay, even if it's not going to be okay. One love.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rami. And I appreciate your insight. It's absolutely true. Through the passing of the bipartisan infrastructure law and then shortly after the Inflation Reduction Act, there has been trillions of dollars set out for various infrastructure, and it's all in a short period of time. And as you said, it's maybe a once in a lifetime opportunity for many of us. We are aware of the capacity of rural and remote communities. We're aware of the administrative availability to go one grant after another grant after another grant, and that is one of the reasons that we're trying to encourage teaming and partnering and other ways to leverage these partnerships of communities such that maybe the burden can be shared and maybe even lowered on the burden. We don't certainly have any absolute answer or any absolute solution, but we'll learn and grow with you. And if the communities, if the partner list isn't working, if the teaming list isn't working, and there's other ways to do that, we would welcome your feedback. We do have a general website. I don't know, Morgan, if you can pull up just the ERA website in general, hq.doe.gov, and share. But we encourage your engagement with our office, and we encourage your ideas, and we are sincerely trying to take the ideas from various communities as we receive them and develop things. One of the we started just last fall with no programs at all, no money at all available, and went and did some workshops across the nation. We have some great staff that's all across the country. I'm myself in Fairbanks, Alaska. We have some folks in Colorado, some folks on the West Coast and on the East Coast. And our office is 4 people. And we've been fortunate enough to, through some great support of our own support staff, to get 3 funding opportunities on the street in a matter of months. And but we recognize also with that that we have room to grow. So with your statements, Rami, we agree and acknowledge them, and we hope that we can partner with our communities, our colleagues, to lessen some of those burdens. But we do hope also at the same time that we can really take advantage of some of these opportunities, some of these fundings that are out there to improve infrastructure. And if communities from here or otherwise have ideas, possibilities, potentials they'd like to share, and maybe some better processes, we'd welcome those and welcome your emails on those thoughts.
Just as a follow-up, thank you very much for that. I put a link in there for the Navigating the New Arctic NSF's convergence working groups. I'm working with the infrastructure futures. So I look forward to being in contact and following up so that we can make these less rhetorical and more practical real world solutions, and we can continue to learn. So thank you so much for taking that time to respond, and look forward to further.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. We have a hand raised. Go ahead. If you want to go audio or video is fine.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Hi, Anne-Marie, and thank you. It's absolutely great to be here, and this work is very, very important. And hats off to you if it's a poor people department or agency and the work that you are addressing. So thanks for that. Now, coming back to this once in a generation opportunity, some of us, small businesses, starting businesses in this space, who might have done a lot of work in community catalyzing and healing and empowerment, and also on renewable energy, where I see myself and our organization as an integral component of renewables, having catalyzed and having declared some time back that just as the horse and buggy went out of operation at some point when the automotive and the wheels were invented and the combustible engine, now it's time for us to transition to renewables. It is. So having catalyzed the pathway, what resources and support can we access and avail, just the logistics and the application and the, what would you say, the processes part. So the actual work that we are focused on and we are capable of doing, so bringing our innovation to fruition. So it impacts communities, transforms lives, transforms our environment. That's what we want to do. That's the focus. So everything else that needs to be managed to be able to handle that, the process, the documents, the formalities. If you could please, speak on that and what guidance can we avail, would so appreciate that. And thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I might ask just to repeat a couple of things. I didn't have perfect audio on that, but are you saying things that can be done to support the communities as they're working through those challenges? Is that what your question was?
So our work and innovation that incorporates rural community empowerment and healing, renewable energy, for that to be, for what resources support can we avail to implement that, move that forward.
Okay, great. There's a lot. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I talked over you at the end there, but jump in anytime. Lots of opportunities out there. It is absolutely true that there's a lot of opportunities from many, several different executive offices that are available to communities. And as we've established, the smaller, the more rural communities, they may have not the same administrative staff or not the same time. Many times leaders in rural communities are also working full-time jobs in other regards. So we appreciate that. And I think that some of the things we're trying to do with the partnering and the teaming is probably not spot on. We're maybe like in the right neighborhood, but not spot on. So we welcome any ideas like that. As far as innovative ideas, we were and are strongly encouraging that in the prize. What's kind of cool about the prize is you don't have to construct a project. It's about building the framework that will allow communities to capture some of these innovations. Also, what's interesting in the prize is if you're so compelled to follow the different prizes that are across the country, and it's not just DOE, is there's a lot of R&D, bringing R&D to market. And so communities have the ability to, just by glancing through that, that American-made challenges and HeroX and seeing what's being competed and what's being awarded, you can see how some of these new technologies are being proposed to be brought to market. Their prizes, are being awarded for those innovative ideas. Also, to some extent, there's a lot of EERE, which is another entire section of DOE that does focus on some of these more cutting edge developing and bringing things to market. We particularly in this one grant, we're staying with solely commercially available technology, simply because that we recognize a lot of our deployments are going to be extremely remote. We're going to have a challenge with supply chain, maybe some challenges with some management and some optimization of controls. And we have found in our collective past experiences that if we take high technical risks in extremely remote areas, then sometimes you have great successes and sometimes you don't. But our goal with this particular grant, this $50 million grant, is to have lasting and reliable benefits to the communities, whether it be through new generation or otherwise energy improvements in their infrastructure. So I'm not sure, I know it jumped around a little bit if I answered 100% of your questions there, but we certainly encourage and welcome innovation and many funding opportunities. This particular one, we may have innovation and ideas of how to consolidate commercially available technologies for certain optimization of power quality or resilience or reduction of outages or a number of other things. But we are trying to keep it in something that you would consider maybe warranted, that if you get with a nameplate capacity and operate it as it is intended to be function, that you would have a serviceable warranty and a certainty of production or otherwise over the coming years. If there are opportunities on kind of breaking the mold, bringing new ideas, we welcome that. We encourage that through all the activities in the prize. Absolutely, we encourage that through the ability to form partnerships in the prize, and then we encourage through the teaming list that communities can engage and interact as well from all different parts of the country, and they may find that they have similar aspects. They may be able to aggregate projects for realizing savings, whereas instead of buying single individual units, you may have multiple communities purchase a similar unit from manufacturer and have cost savings that way, or a number of other ways. None of these are absolute. These are only ideas really that we've heard from communities as we went across the nation and talked to them when we developed this program. So I'm going to stop the monologue there. I hope I provided some detail for you. And then Anne-Marie, I'll hand it to you as we have some more questions coming in.
Yeah, we are getting close to wrapping up. We had one in the chat that I offered to ask to the group about what is the definition of commercially available. So if you could speak to that, and then if there's other questions, Morgan put a comment on the chat with our friends from OCED as we're getting closer to wrapping up to say, if you haven't gotten things answered, we have another coming webinar. Morgan, you're welcome to hop on and speak to that as well, but I'll let you answer the question about the defining commercial before we finish up.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Page 6 of the FOA. It is section 1.2. We say proposals must show that the technology is commercially available. For the purposes of this FOA, commercially available technology is defined as a product that has been offered for sale, lease, or license to the public. This could be done by showing the product can be warranted, can be purchased from a commercial vendor for the intended purpose, or some other justification of the applicant's choosing. So we give a few opportunities there. on what we kind of generally call commercially available. But then we open it up at the end that says if there's another justification that the applicant's choosing can show that it's a commercially available project, then we will, commercially available technology, we'll take that under consideration. But typically, as the words I just read, it's something usually that's has a nameplate capacity, it's offered for sale, you can lease it, it's licensed to the public, there's certain legal considerations that you may offer in that further definition. Warranties are certainly an indication of commercially available. First of a kind that is currently in research and development is not a commercially available product. If something is in a laboratory and it hasn't been scaled, and you're working on something in the kilowatt range, but you think it's going to be effective in the megawatt range, and you want to go deploy it, that's typically not commercially available. But if you have justification as an applicant that it is, then sell us on it and tell us why it is. It's very easy when something is available from a vendor and has a warranty and has longevity and a history in the market. That's an easy claim. Others need further justification. So we welcome to hear that from you, the applicants.
All right. Well, I'm sure some of you are eager to get off and go eat lunch, or you've been eating throughout this, but thank you so much for your time. Michael and the OCED team, anything else you want to say before we wrap up from the Arctic Energy Office?
I would just say thank you for taking the time with us. We appreciate your Mike, did you have a question there? We do have time if you have one more question. So a hand raise. Okay. Appreciate the time. Arctic Energy Office, thank you for inviting us. We're happy to come back if it's a benefit to, if you're find that it's a benefit to the webinar. Again, we encourage you to go to the OCED Exchange and see this opportunity that's available. I just wonder, did we get any feedback that somebody could open the link or not? Did any of our teams, public out here, public participants, try and open that link for the PDF for the pre-application? I'd really like to know if you're able to open it, even if it's just a quick yes or no, that'd be great. I'm not, I don't have visibility across everybody if they can or can't. I'm just getting a couple emails saying they can't. So, okay, thanks, Casey. And anybody else, just let us know. Great, thank you, Omar. Thanks for that. For those of you that said it didn't have a problem, yeah, I can share it again, no problem. Let me go ahead and put it in here. For those of you that say you have a problem, please do continue to email us. I will reply to your emails with the PDF itself. Let me just copy this link. I'll post it one more time. If you're having trouble, let me know why, and I will try my best to work with our IT. Again, I would like to note that if you're unable to open this template for any reason, it does not exclude you from anything, because you can go to section 4 of the FOA and it has the exact content that's being requested, and you can type that into a document, save it as a PDF, and submit it as your pre-application. It's 100% acceptable. Yeah, in conclusion, very grateful for the Arctic Energy Office for inviting us. We're always happy to be here, and thank all of you for joining us today. We are encouraged and excited about energy improvements in rural or remote America, and we're excited to see your applications and excited to work with you. Morgan, do you have anything you want to close out from the OCED side of things, and we'll hand it back to Anne-Marie and Gibby?
Yeah, just that we appreciate you all joining today. And if you have more questions about this grant opportunity, feel free to reach out to the inbox that we pasted in the chat. And then we also have a webinar coming up on the 30th where we will go over kind of the same detail. But if you had any colleagues who missed this opportunity to learn about the grant, please feel free to join that. That link is also in the chat.
Great. Do you mind pulling up the slide about connecting with our office, and I'll go over that and then Gibby can close us out. So just again, thank you so much for coming. We at the Arctic Energy Office just want to highlight that we do have, and you may have heard about this webinar through one of these mechanisms, but we have a newsletter, we have a Facebook page, we have, of course, our website. Facebook page is brand new. We have a little intro video you can see on the slide there. To get to know what we're up to. We have a Twitter account and we're on LinkedIn, so you can follow us on any of these places, excuse me, to get connected with these ongoing announcements about events and opportunities of working with us. And the next slide will also be at the Alaska Sustainable Energy Conference next week. So for those of you who are joining, I'm just mentioning it because this is a widely attended event. We'd love to meet you there. We'll have a booth there. Gibby and I will be out there, as well as others from our team, and our director, Erin Whitney, who is on travel today and unable to make this webinar. She will be moderating a panel, as you can see on the screen here, with Assistant Secretary of State, Jeff Pryatt, and our Deputy Secretary of Energy, David Turk. So very excited about that. Gibby, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I would like to also extend the invite. It's one thing to do a webinar, but it's so much better Alaska style to be talking in person. So please do. I know many of you are planning to come to the Sustainable Energy Conference. We're going to have representation there from a few different DOE offices. So beyond OCED, what you heard about today, the Grid Deployment Office is going to be there, the Office of Indian Energy, our office, and a couple others from staff offices at headquarters. So it'll be a great opportunity to have the chance to meet the DOE team that supports Alaska, and also learn about other opportunities that are available through the bipartisan infrastructure law and also through the Inflation Reduction Act. And then finally, beyond what we were talking about today, all our offices have baseline budgets and standing programs that predate this new money. So I would not discount those opportunities as well. And we're very happy to talk with you about what they look like and what other mechanisms are available to the state of Alaska and the Arctic at large. Our role at the Arctic Energy Office is to connect you with the right parts of our department, so you don't need to be an expert of how to navigate DOE and the bureaucracy. So please do reach out to us. You've got the contact information for Kuka and the team over there in OCED, and then also Anne-Marie, myself, and Aaron at Arctic Energy can assist you in navigating our department to find resources that match your needs. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're very happy to help you, and that's why we're in business in Alaska and why we have our office up here. So thank you all for your time today. Please stay tuned to our social media feeds. We are going to be doing other outreach activities over the next several months with other offices where we have equities that affect Alaska and program potentials that might benefit our state. Thank you.